Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto absorbs Orochimaru, part 2. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. As the two girls started down towards the arena, the voice in Naruto's head started talking again. Alright brat, now seems like, as good a time, as ever to try out a theory of mine. When you were using my chakra against that Haku boy, did you notice any sensory enhancements? Yeah, a little bit. That's supposed to happen, right? Yes it is, but it doesn't make sense. Simply channeling chakra into your nose doesn't instantly make you capable of smelling things better. If it did, every ninja would be doing it. Just because it was my chakra shouldn't mean anything. My chakra remains just chakra, simply far more intense, and shouldn't have actually changed how you were sensing things. Eyesight, maybe, sound, perhaps, but it should not have enhanced your sense of smell. If anything, your own flesh burning should have decreased your sense of smell, but it did not. So what does that mean? Do I have a bloodline or something? If my theory is correct, you very well might. Try channeling chakra to your whisker marks. Naruto subtly made a hand seal in the ragged remains of his tattered jumpsuit, and carefully guided his chakra to the distinctive whisker marks on his cheeks. When it finally arrived, his eyes widened. It was an incredible sensation. It was like he had been blind, and now he could see. Colors were brighter, scents sharper, sounds clear. He could feel the breeze from the ridiculous amounts of weapons being thrown by the girl called Tenten. He could taste the leftovers of blood coughed up after he had blown half his own back off. Every single one of his senses were drastically enhanced, to easily superhuman levels. I thought as much. Kyuubi, what is this? Is this what having whiskers feels like? This is so awesome. Oh my god. Calm down brat. And no, this is not what having whiskers feel like. This is what your unique bloodline feels like, apparently, and I must say it's more impressive than I thought it would be. Wow, you mean I have a bloodline? Awesome. My whiskers are actually useful, instead of just stupid looking. Stupid looking. I resent that, I made those, more or less. Oh look, the fight's almost over. It took Naruto a moment to realize why King was looking so desperate and terrified, and why the battlefield was thoroughly littered not just with weapons of all sorts, but also with lots of little bells. As chakra faded away from his whisker marks, he spotted what was going on with the last little bit of boosted eyesight he had left in him. Kin threw what essentially amounted to a swarm of all of them with little bells attached to them, and started frantically tugging on small strings attached to the bells the instant they even approached Tenten. But before they could do much more than ring once, the bun-haired genin from Konoha would throw a veritable hail of weapons, cutting each and every string in a matter of seconds. This had clearly been going on for a while, and kept on going for a few more volleys, before Tenten appeared to get bored of essentially toying with her opponent, and took her out with a single spread of various pointy weapons. Kin was quickly carted out of the arena for medical treatment, while Tenten and her green-clad teammate, along with their similarly green-clad teacher, gathered up her various thrown weapons, and all the Kin had thrown, as well, for good measure. Even before all the weapons had been gathered up, the board started flashing, and it landed on a pair of names, moments after the non-injured parts of Team Guy had finished leaving the arena. Misumi Tsurugi vs Hinata Hyuga. Back to work. Analysis please. That Misumi guy looks like a close-range fighter, either that or an exclusive ninjutsu user, considering how he has absolutely no weapons on him. And his clothes look like they have a lot of elastic in them, just like Choji did, so if I were to take a guess, I'd say he can stretch or something, even if he doesn't look like an Akamichi. Misumi rushed towards Hinata, and soon was wrapping his limbs around her, threatening to break her neck. She seemed to shuffle a bit, and blushingly placed her hand on his stomach even, as he kept on threatening her. The quick flash of blue, and he was on the ground, coughing up blood. Hinata returned to her team after being declared the winner, and quietly accepted her teammates' congratulations, while the next two names flashed across the board. Temari vs Zaku Abumi. The final two fighters, one from Sound and one from Sand, made their way down to the arena. Zaku had a huge grin on his face, his confidence clearly unshaken by his defeat at the hands of Team 7. Temari, meanwhile, was looking serious. She was clearly not taking this battle lightly, a fact made all the more clear by the fact that she unfolded the giant metal object on her back, now revealed to be a fan, all the way before the fight even started. Zaku grinned at her, and said, "Hey, this is going to be easy. Look at you, you need a fan just to use wind techniques." She smirked and said, "I'm going to end this in one move. I'm honestly in a pretty bad mood right now with a brother in the hospital, so I'm just going to finish you off quickly." Zaku just kept on grinning, and the proctor, looking between the two of them, raised his hand, and lowered it. Begin. Temari swung her fan, as Zaku raised his hands. Kamitachi no Jutsu. Zenkuro. The two powerful wind attacks collided, but it wasn't much of a collision. Temari's fan-aided attack easily overwhelmed Zaku's tube-assisted, brushing it aside like it was nothing. The cutting wind smashed into him, and lifted him into the air, slicing him up all over, before dropping him to the ground, groaning, and bleeding all over. He struggled to get to his feet, a determined look on his bloodied face, but Temari simply snapped her fan close, and threw it at him. It struck him dead on the head, knocking him out in an instant. She pulled her fan back to her, showing her proficiency with chakra strings, just like her puppeteer brother, and snapped the folded fan back onto her back, a grim look on her face the whole time. Winner, Temari of the Sand. The Hokage rose to his feet, and in an instant all attention was shifted to his commanding presence. Although he was still a figure of strength, and someone to be respected. He had once been the strongest ninja in the world, and was named Hokage at an incredibly young age. Even now, far past his prime, he was still known for his incredible power and knowledge, and only a precious few would dare fight him head-on. Would all the winners please come to the arena floor? There are still a few things to take care of before we can let you go. Soon they were gathered, lined up in a row like the good little ninja they were. Choji and Shikamaru stood at the far left, with Naruto next to Shikamaru, the boy being one of the few people Naruto could honestly call his friend. To Naruto's other side stood Kiba, another of Naruto's more or less friends, at the very least a prank buddy, and a fellow troublemaker. To Kiba's right stood Hinata, who was looking surprised at her presence in the winner's circle, while to her right stood both Lee and Tenten, both whispering to each other, and seemingly sizing up the competition. Finishing up the lineup were Gar and Temari, with Gar standing towards the inside, and Temari to the outside, the blonde girl trying to look confident while standing next to her red-headed teammate, and almost pulling it off. As the Hokage started talking, Naruto turned him out, and started communicating with his latest precious person. I think I know why they're all afraid of Gar. It makes sense, nothing else really stands out like that does, as a possible explanation. Use your whiskers, check his smell. Naruto surged a bit of chakra to his marks, wincing momentarily at the smell of smoke to his left, from Team 10 picked up from their sensei, and dogs to his right. He managed to tune it out though, marveling at the abilities of his newly discovered bloodline, as he did, and stretched his senses far to the right. The first thing he smelled was the overwhelming stench of blood. Insane amounts, the blood of hundreds, if not thousands of different scents. That was Gar. Naruto ignored the feeling of terror that was threatening to well up in him, and moved further, struggling to get past the blood. Then, he reached her. And he smelled it, exactly what he had been expecting. Fear, and hatred. And something else. Hey Kyuubi. She feels affection for him. Wait, what? How does that work? Can you really fear and hate someone, and love them at the same time? And these aren't subtle either, she feels really strong enough about all of this. Well, she called her other teammate a brother. It really isn't far outside of the realm of possibility that Gar is her brother too. Damn, that's pretty intense. So what do we do? Well, this helps us figure out his abilities. He is clearly a Jinchuriki. But what? I thought he was just a demon container. Jinchuriki means human sacrifice. It's just another word for a demon container. Considering the fact that he is from the sand, and adding in the rings around his eyes, I would be surprised if he wasn't the container of the Shikaku, one-tailed demon of the sand. What does that mean? A few things, actually. First of all, Gar has control over sand, which is probably what that gourd is filled with. He's also insane. What? You mean all Jinchuriki are insane? It's pronounced Jinchuriki, and no, that's not what I mean. Shikaku hosts lose their ability to sleep. If he falls asleep, even for a short amount of time, Shikaku emerges, and begins absorbing his soul further, going on a killing spree. As he does, the human body isn't meant to go without sleep, and the insanity is made worse by the fact that Shikaku takes over more and more of his personality the more he sleeps. At this point, all of the previous containers were dead or completely insane. The fact that he is out in public, and not busily slaughtering everything he sees, proves that he has far better resilience than most. Of course, it probably helps that at least one of his siblings loves him. What do you mean? Demon hosts are very unique. They automatically release pheromones, and signals that lead people to like them, but they face far greater obstacles than most in persuading people to do so. In essence, if even the slightest chance is given, a Jinchuriki will gain the love of whoever is giving them that chance, no matter what. However, people will rarely give a Jinchuriki that chance. And any Jinchuriki that doesn't receive love will go insane, without exception. You avoided this fate thanks in large part to the third Hokage, initially, with the Ichiraku family joining in later on, and Iruka during your graduation. Wow. I guess I should thank them. Yes. This boy has been saved, at least in part, from his insanity by the love of his siblings, or at least siblings. However, that love is tempered by fear, and unless that fear goes away, he will reach the final stages, and snap. How long does he have? A year, maybe 2. I want to help him. I want to save him. He is from another village, and would likely kill you on sight. This is up to them. That's not right. Are there other Jinchuriki? Yes. With 9 Biju-tailed beasts, there are 9 Jinchuriki, likely scattered across the elemental nations. I have to help them. They're like my siblings, they're just like me. I have to save them. It is possible. Even the feeling of being needed can hold off the insanity, and love given too late can still heal some wounds. Since most villages use their Jinchuriki despite the hatred, the feeling of being needed will still be present. That should help stave off some of the insanity, and at least leave them salvageable. Do you think I can do it? Now isn't the time to be asking that. pay attention. Hurry up old man, get to the fighting. The Hokage and Naruto both frowned simultaneously at the lack of respect Gaara was showing, along with almost all the other Leaf Ninja in the room. But the elderly leader of Konoha merely shrugged and said, "Very well, Anko, if you please." The crazy proctor from the second exam stepped forward, a grim look on her face. "If you could all please draw a number from this bag." Choji and Shikamaru did so without trouble, but when Naruto did, he couldn't help but notice the glare that she was giving him. When she continued on, Naruto frowned and thought, what was that about? She didn't seem to hate me before the second exam, why does she now? The crazy proctor from the second exam stepped forward, a grim look on her face. "If you could all please draw a number from this bag." Choji and Shikamaru did so without trouble, but when Naruto did, he couldn't help but notice the glare that she was giving him. When she continued on, Naruto frowned and thought, what was that about? She didn't seem to hate me before the second exam, why does she now? We can find out later. What's your number? Naruto glanced down and found a big fat 9 staring back up at him. The irony was not lost on him or the 9-tailed demons within him. Enko took a step back, Tamari having just drawn her number, and said, "Could you all please read off your numbers?" They started, going from right to left. 6 4 9 5 7 10 3 1, and finally, 8. Enko turned around and fiddled with a piece of paper, before spinning back around to face the assembled genin. "Very well, these are your matchups for the final round, barring any sudden disqualifications." No one could have missed the glare she sent Naruto's way at that. "Okay, what the hell? Quite. Look at the board." Naruto did, and saw that they had been set up in a tournament-style bracket, with 4 people in one bracket, and 6 in the second. The second bracket looked a little unusual, with the winners of the 4th and 5th matches fighting each other, before the winner of that fought the winner of the 3rd in a semifinals match. Whoever won that battle would, of course, head to the finals to face the champion of the first bracket. And, interestingly enough, his opponent was Lee, the taijutsu user that had given Sasuke a serious beatdown before the exams, and had then proceeded to knock out Sakura with a single blow. He saw that Gaara was fighting Sasuke in the first match, which was bound to be an interesting one, a fight that was going to be followed by Tenten going up against Shikamaru. The third match was Kiba and Choji, while the fourth match was Hinata against Sumari. And, of course, that left only the final match for him, and Lee. So we get an extra fight if we can get past Lee just to get to the finals. Yes, and Gaara faces the one that is supposedly the strongest ninja of your year in the first round in the first match. This will turn out interesting. Alright, rules are the same as here. You all have a month to get ready, spy on your enemies, learn something new, whatever the hell you want to be honest. No fighting each other before your matches, other than that, anything goes. Now get the hell out of here. Naruto noticed the frown on the Hokage's face, and almost chuckled. Whatever her reason for suddenly hating him, she was going to get a stern talking to. He knew the look on the old man's face, he had seen it 100 times before. But before he could make it all the way out of the door, he heard the Hokage say, "Naruto, our talk." Naruto frowned and turned back around, noting out of the corner of his eye the look on the red-eyed teacher's face. Yeah, she didn't like him either. Her and the snake lady, what the hell was going on here? He walked towards the Hokage, nervously noticing that the creepy lady, apparently called Anko, was remaining behind, and even releasing a bit of killing intent. He surged a bit of chakra to his cheeks, and was almost overwhelmed by what he could smell. She didn't just hate him, she loathed him, she wanted him dead. Her hatred easily overwhelmed that of the red-eyed woman moving out of the room. The Hokage rose to his feet, groaning and creaking, as he did, but before he could say a word, Anko moved. Naruto had seen speed before. Lee had been fast, Orochimaru had been fast, even though the Sannin had been holding back a hell of a lot, but Anko was fast, a speed fueled by her rage. She smashed into Naruto, and an instant later, smashed Naruto into a wall. She had somehow drawn, and struck with 3 kunai, when holding Naruto up by the tattered remnants of his clothing, while her right hand held a kunai to his throat, and her left pointed the third at his heart. All was silent, and then the Hokage spoke, saying, "Anko, release him." Anko frowned, but she backed off, putting her 2 kunai away God knows where, and ripping the third out of the wall, before retreating to the Hokage's side to fiddle with it, eyeing Naruto the whole time. The Hokage said, "Naruto, you appear to have met a certain man in the forest, a man who bit you on the neck. Describe him." Naruto frowned, starting to realize what this was all about. "You mean Orochimaru?" Anko growled, and Naruto caught the scent of her hatred even without putting chakra into his marks. Now that was frightening. The Hokage, meanwhile, was somehow managing to frown at both Anko and Naruto simultaneously, despite the fact that they were standing at opposite sides of him, one behind, and to the left, the other in front of, and to the right. It was an impressive feat, one made all the more incredible by the overwhelming disappointment in his voice, as he responded to Naruto. "Yes. Where did you learn his name?" "Well, I did some history lessons in the library while I was waiting for the second test to end, and I found it out." "I thought you wanted to talk about Kyuubi." The Hokage's frown deepened, and his attention shifted away from Anko. "That was the initial plan, yes. However, Anko noticed something, and pointed it out to me, that takes precedence, and is likely the cause of the greater influence the Kyuubi has on you. What greater influence? The Hokage's frown seemed to deepen even further, to the point that Naruto wouldn't have been surprised, had it jumped off the old man's face, and attacked him. Naruto, you nearly killed a fellow leaf shinobi, and you did so in a manner that nearly killed you, and then used an excessive amount of Kyuubi chakra to heal yourself. That greater influence. Before Naruto could defend himself, Anko snapped, that's not the issue. The issue is Orochimaru. The Hokage nodded, not even looking at Anko, as he did, and said, yes, that is the issue. Naruto, where did you get the mark on your neck? Naruto frowned, and glanced at his neck where the mark had been. Much to his surprise, it was indeed there. Hey Kyuubi, I thought you got rid of it. Sure, I got rid of the effects, but it remains. The actual marking is just a tattoo of sorts, to cover up the true seal work. I can't exactly get rid of a tattoo, that's not how it works. Naruto turned to look back at the Hokage, and said, that stupid bastard bit me on the neck, and gave it to me. Simultaneously, the Hokage seemed to relax a bit, and Anko grew a bit more tense. Still, it was the Hokage who spoke, not his angry subordinate. Why did he bite you? Naruto grinned, and rubbed the back of his head, before chuckling, and saying, well, he wasn't aiming for me. He was actually trying to bite Sasuke, but I kind of jumped in the way. Anko blinked, and suddenly, instead of hatred, her body language was indicating intense confusion, a message that was only reinforced by her scratching the back of her head, just like Naruto had moments ago. Wait, you were the one that kept him away from the Sharingan. Yeah. Anko seemed to return to glaring at him, albeit with less force than before, and said, well you better believe I ain't kissing you. Naruto frowned, totally lost at this point. Okay. The Hokage coughed, and they both turned to look at him. Naruto, have you been feeling odd since he bit you? Have you used the seal at all? Have you felt any unusual urges? Naruto started laughing at that, but stopped when he noticed that Anko looked like she was about to kill him again. No. If that's all this is about, you really don't have to worry. Kyuubi took care of it. The little mark Thinji is just a tattoo now, it doesn't actually do anything anymore. Why would Kyuubi help you like this? Asked an intensely glaring Hokage. Well, the seal kind of helped Kyuubi out a little too. The Hokage grew exponentially more intense, and thus frightening. Naruto, is the Kyuubi free in any way? Naruto shook his head rapidly, and kept on doing it until the Hokage's slowly growing killing intent had faded. Then what happened? How did it help the Kyuubi? Well, and with that, Naruto explained everything the Kyuubi had told him, drawing more than one incredulous stare from both the third and Anko, as he did. He told them about what had happened inside of him while he was unconscious. He told them about how he had trained under the Kyuubi while in the tower. Basically, he told them everything that had happened in the past 5 days, down to his realizations about the people around him, and the Kyuubi's revelations on the nature of the Jinchuriki, ending with him thanking the Hokage for literally saving him from the madness that had consumed his counterpart. When he was done, the Hokage rose without a word, and strode over to Naruto. He lifted the burnt and shredded remains of Naruto's shirt, and said, Naruto, channel chakra if you don't mind. Naruto nodded, and did so. The Hokage inspected the seal for what seemed like hours, but was likely more along the lines of a few minutes. When he was done, he looked up at Naruto, and said, you appear to be telling the truth. If anything, the bonds holding the Kyuubi within you appear to have grown stronger. And if Kyuubi truly is cooperating with you, as a result of this incident, perhaps it is all for the best. However, I cannot simply take your word for granted when it comes to Orochimaru, so I'm going to have to examine the seal he placed on you. Unfortunately, the process of unwrapping it so that I might actually inspect the seal lines themselves will be difficult, and likely painful for you. I will do it with or without your permission, but I would appreciate it nevertheless. It's okay old man, go on ahead. The Hokage smiled, and even Anko seemed to lighten up a little bit. Soon, Naruto was sitting in the middle of a massive circle of seals, and the Hokage was standing over him, his palm hovering just above the seal on Naruto's neck. Are you ready? This will likely hurt. Yeah, go for it. The Hokage slammed his hand down, and shouted, release. With that, Naruto blacked out, the pain overwhelming him in an instant. It only lasted for a moment, however, and soon he had regained his senses, the pain having faded to a dull ache, as the Hokage shook him, repeatedly saying his name. It's alright old man, I'm okay. The Hokage smiled down at him, and said, very well, sit up, and I will inspect your seal. Naruto did so, and the Hokage stood over him, eyeing the now expanded seal on his neck. Soon, Anko had approached, as well, and was looking at it with just as much interest as the third was. After a few minutes of whispered conversation between the third and Anko, they stepped back, and Naruto watched, as the seal lines receded, and then faded away. Well Naruto, it appears you are telling the truth. The seal has been completely destroyed, not including the disguise function. You are a very lucky boy. Had you been anyone else, you might have ended up wrapped around Orochimaru's pinky. Yeah, I hate to think what would have happened if he had actually bitten Sasuke. He may be a bastard, but with Orochimaru helping him, he could have been a really strong evil bastard. The Hokage chuckled, and Anko roared with laughter. Naruto grinned at her, and she grinned right back. He was obviously pleased that she wasn't trying to kill him anymore, and although he wasn't forgetting her psycho side, she seemed a lot nicer now. The Hokage grinned, seeing the moment of bonding between the two of them, and said, Anko, why don't you escort Naruto back into the village? I'd like to analyze some footage of the matches, and I'm too busy to take him through the forest. Sure thing, old man. The Hokage froze, and then slowly turned around to find himself looking at a pair of ninja with near-identical grins on their faces. He shook his head, and walked away, his head in his hands, wondering what sort of monster he may have just created. They made it through the forest rather quickly, a series of assisted shunshin getting them out in mere minutes, far faster than Naruto's first journey through. As they traveled they talked to one another, and a bond rapidly developed. They were both very similar in personality, sharing a very intense love for jokes, especially pranks, and both desperately craving attention and love while trying not to show it. Then, they arrived at the village. Instantly, Naruto noticed something was wrong. Not only people glared at them with varying degrees of hatred, or ignored him. However, this was an entirely new level. Now, the whispers were louder, less hidden, and the glares seemed to have intensified. He was mystified as to the reason, however, until someone spit at Anko, and then someone else spat at him, both of the people muttering about snake lovers. She stoically ignored them, and Naruto followed her example. But now he knew, she was more like him than he was willing to believe, and his being with her was magnifying the hatred towards him, while the fact that his new impotent cursed seal was easily visible through his essentially non-existent shirt, obviously wasn't helping him any. It was a sobering experience indeed, just to know that there were others in the village treated just as he had been treated, and for reasons just as foolish, just as stupid, just as wrong. It only took a moment for him to realize that he wouldn't escape this new level of hatred just by leaving her side. Dozens of villagers had already seen his cursed mark, and they obviously knew what Anko's was. That meant that they would know what he was, and that meant, above all else, that their hatred of him would only grow. Suddenly, he was associated with the worst traitor in the history of the Leaf, and the worst disaster in the history of Leaf. The redoubled hatred hit him like a sledgehammer, and he might have given up altogether if it wasn't for one thing. Anko was still right next to him, bearing her burden with a smile and a laugh, trying to cheer him up when she realized what he was now facing along with her. Naruto straightened his back and raised his head. She gave him the confidence to lift himself out of the depression that he might have fallen into otherwise. And, unknowingly, a woman on the edge of giving up on the village of Konoha was drawn back from the brink by the strength that she had loaned to the boy next to her. Then, she shifted her jacket to cover her seal. Naruto looked at her for a moment, and then looked at his own shoulder. His seal was already at least partially covered up by tattered chunks of his jacket, and it would actually be pretty simple to cover it up the rest of the way, shifting chunks of cloth around until it was hidden from the world. Naruto reached up, and took his jacket off completely, slinging it over his opposite shoulder, as he did, revealing his cursed seal to the world with nothing to hide it. Anko looked at him with surprise evident on her face, and he glared back up at her defiantly. Realization flashed through her eyes, and an entire conversation happened in an instant, their shared experience letting them say what needed to be said without ever saying a word. She moved her jacket, and revealed her seal once more. The glares intensified, but neither of them noticed. Eventually, they both arrived at Naruto's apartment building. Anko was right about to turn to go, her seal out in the open, proudly shown to the world, when Naruto grabbed the back of her coat, tugging it a little. She stopped, and turned to look at him, and then followed him up to his apartment. He unlocked the door, and stepped in Anko right behind him. Soon they were both drinking some homemade tea with homegrown herbs in complete silence. Naruto was the first to break it. How long? She sipped her tea. Since I was 10, for 11 years. Because of the seal? Naruto asked, as he poured himself a second cup. No, replied Anko, as she fiddled with her hands. Well, not exactly. I was his apprentice. I loved him. He never loved me back, but he was basically my father. He was the one that raised me, from age 5 to age 10. Before then I was just another orphan, but he saw the potential in me, and he raised me the way he felt I should be raised. He experimented on me, he forced me to fight for him, he forced me to kill for him, and I loved him for it. Then he put the cursed seal on me, and something happened. I'd like to think I left him, but I honestly don't know. I looked up to him more than anything in the world, and I think he abandoned me. Naruto and Anko were both silent, and then Naruto spoke again, staring at the steam rising from his untouched second cup of tea. How do you bear it? How do you take it all, and stay loyal to Konoha? Anko smiled, and picked up her cup again, bringing it to her lips, and draining the last of her first cup. I don't. Naruto picked his cup back up again, imitating Anko and bringing it to his lips, as she poured herself a second cup. What do you mean? As Naruto took his first sip of his second cup, Anko stared at the steam rising from hers. I hate this stupid village, and almost everyone in it. But the one person that I do love, the only person I've ever loved outside of Orochimaru, is the Hokage. I love him, and I'm loyal to him. If Orochimaru was my father, the Hokage was my grandfather. He raised me after Orochimaru left me. He was one of the only people that didn't give me that damn look. He's the only reason I'm still here, and not some rogue ninja out there, trying to destroy Konoha or go back to working for Orochimaru, that fucker. Neither Naruto nor Anko flinched at the harsh language, but Anko did take her first sip of the second cup. What about you? How do you stay loyal? Same as you, I guess, was Naruto's despondent reply, even as he finished off his second cup, placing it back down onto the table. I love the Hokage, and a few others too. My teacher from the academy, Iruka, risked his life to protect me, and basically told the traitor Mizuki that he knew I was human. He was the first person to ever say so much in words. And the Ichiraku family, they fed me when no one else would, they accepted me too. Anko smiled, and put down her now empty cup. Sounds like you, and I are the same brat. The only things keeping us here are the people precious to us. You have the Hokage, a teacher, and a ramen stand. I have a landlord, a Hokage, and a dango stand. Simultaneously, they rose to their feet. Naruto held out his hand to Anko, who was grinning, not the mad grin of a prankster or mad woman, but the grin of someone who was happy. The same grin was adorning Naruto's face. Anko held out her hand back, and they shook. Nice to meet you. And you too. And with that, she was gone. Naruto left soon after, heading towards a training ground to get started on his preparations. Alright brat, I have some interesting news for you. What is it? Over the course of the next 2 weeks, your chakra reserves will increase by half, if not more. What? Quite. Don't talk out loud, people think you're crazy enough, as it is. We're all alone, what does it matter? Habits are important. Alright, sorry. What? Better. Now, you need some history to understand this. When the damned fourth Hokage sealed me anew, he tore away half my chakra, my yin chakra, and locked it in the stomach of the death god, for all eternity. However, something went wrong, I don't know what. That seal should be eternal, immortal, everlasting, but it isn't. There's a leak, a little hole built into the contract with the death god, and I don't know why, but it appears to have been intentional. For some reason, the fourth left a loophole that is letting me regain my chakra, now that it isn't being drained, and I can think clearly enough to drag it back. Okay, so you're getting half your chakra back. What does that have to do with me getting a chakra increase? All Jinchuriki are linked to their demons. If a demon is hurt, so is a Jinchuriki. Not in small things, of course. I don't get hurt every time you scrape your knee, but when you are close to death, so am I, and vice versa. Fortunately for you, I can't die, but unfortunately for me, you can, meaning that my death can only happen with yours death. For most beasts it isn't a problem, because we will simply come back to life, but this damned seal, that's beside the point though. The point is, we are linked. A portion of your chakra is natural, around a quarter of it. The rest is a rough fraction of my chakra, 100th, let's say, for argument's sake. It is likely more than that, but that doesn't really matter. Since my chakra is increasing, so is yours. It translates roughly to you getting half again, as much chakra, as now in around 2 weeks. If you don't know all the exact fractions, how can you tell how much it will increase by? Instinct, really. We're connected in ways that even I don't understand, even more connected than most demons with their Jinchuriki, thanks to the unique nature of our seal. Okay, so what does this chakra increase mean for both of us? Well, for me it doesn't really mean much. I can't fight in here anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But for you, it means quite a bit more. For you, it means that you will regain chakra faster, and that you can use more techniques, better techniques, stronger techniques, with less of a drain. Wait, will I have to totally work on my chakra control again? In a manner of speaking. It wouldn't be all at once, like I said. I'm spreading it out over 2 weeks, so it will at least emulate natural growth. You will need to practice chakra control essentially non-stop over that period, but if you do so you won't have to relearn anything. Well, that still sucks. Yes, but there's nothing to be done about it. You will get stronger, your reserves increasing makes that inevitable. The only downside is that half of the training time given to you for the finals will be taken away from you, but such a massive chakra increase makes that all worth it. Your chakra levels really matter that much. I mean, I've never ran out before. Yes they do, and yes you have. Remember the wave mission. Tree climbing is what you were doing I believe, and you ran out of chakra. It all came back incredibly quickly, in part due to my influence, but nevertheless, you can run out. You already have cage level chakra. After this, you will be beyond cage level in this aspect, approaching the chakra levels of the weakest of the tailed beasts, Shikaku. Get the experience that goes with that chakra level, and you will be the most powerful ninja in the world, as was the fourth's intention. If the seal had worked the way he intended, you would have been a god by age 5. As it is, you'll get there eventually anyway. What do you mean? Like I said, all you're lacking is experience, and maybe a few more, and you will be the most powerful ninja in the world. In this next month, we will work on a few things. The first is chakra control. I have some ideas for how to take it to higher levels even, as we just work to keep it from falling. We want those, as soon as possible, because even though you can't lose experience, chakra control becomes more difficult to learn the more chakra you have, and your chakra will be increasing rapidly in the next 2 weeks. After that, we should probably spend a week figuring out your bloodline, and the last week will be nothing but battles against Naruto, and have come close to mastering it. That grants you infinite sparring partners, and the memories that they have, meaning you learn twice as fast with only 2 clones. Wait, what? Shit. How did I not notice that? The fuck? Are you kidding me? You never noticed that? Oh my god, I'm so stupid. You're the dumbest person I have ever met. Naruto hung his head low, and, forcefully keeping himself from speaking out loud, thought, I know. Okay, idiocy aside, it's time to start. Remember when your teacher fought Zabuza the first time? They were both standing on the water, you noticed, right? Yeah. I was kind of wondering how they did that, but I never got around to asking. Well, we're going to find out. I don't actually know how to do it either, but it should be a relatively simple matter to find out. Let's start out with what you do for tree walking, and we'll experiment from there. I'll start retrieving my stolen chakra now, so get to work. As Naruto walked towards the water, he had a grim look on his face. This month was going to suck. Training to fight a genin he knew next to nothing about, beyond ridiculous speed and ridiculous eyebrows. Naruto took his first tentative steps onto the water, or rather, he tried to. Instead he fell in with a resounding splash, and jumped out with a decidedly unmanly shriek. Hey Kyuubi. What is it, brat? Do you think all of the other Jinchuriki are like Gar? Could they all be crazy? I don't know. And now isn't the time to be wondering about things like that. This is the time to train, to get yourself to the point where you can win against your opponent, win the whole tournament. Yeah, I guess so. Reluctantly Naruto headed back towards the water, this time trying to create invisible pads of chakra to stand on, figuring maybe water walking was like snowshoes. He fell in again, and once more emerged with a shriek and a splash. Listen brat, if it really is that important to you, we can find out later. I'm sure this village has intelligence on the others of your kind, they would be mad not to. Ask the third after the exams are over, I imagine he will be most willing to help you. Thanks Kyuubi, I think I'll do that. No problem brat. Naruto tried again, this time. Hey, I did it. You learn way too fast. Alright, the next step is. A month later, Naruto stood in the center of the arena, listening to the cheers. The proctor, a new one, not the sickly man from the preliminaries, stepped forward and said, Alright kids, this is it. The whole world is watching, this is your chance to impress them all. Same rules as the preliminaries, anything goes, but not endangering the crowd, and if I call a match, it's over, no dispute. Anyone that keeps on attacking after I call the match is disqualified. Now, the first match, Sasuke Uchiha vs Gar of the Sand, has been delayed due to the tardiness of one of the participants. Because of this, we will be moving straight on to the second match, so could everyone except for Tenten and Shikamaru please head to the competitor's box. Naruto, unfortunately, kept his full attention on Gar, and never noticed the confused looks one of the other contestants was throwing his way. It was fairly easy to notice that Gar seemed pretty pissed off, which probably meant the half-crazy Jinchuriki hadn't killed Sasuke yet. If Sasuke was dead at the hands of Gar, Naruto might have been forced to take Gar out just to avenge his teammate, and he still wasn't entirely sure he could do that, even with all the training he'd done. By the time they all arrived at the competitor's box, the fight, if it could really be called that, was already underway. Shikamaru was randomly running around in the shadows of the arena wall, while Tenten was furiously throwing weapons at him, missing him by only the smallest of margins each time, actually ripping his clothes to shreds with each near miss. It was clear to everyone that Shikamaru stood no chance, and apparently, everyone included him, because a few seconds after the other competitors made it to the box, he surrendered, leaving behind a thoroughly frustrated Tenten. The proctor called out, "Winner, Tenten. Could Kiba Inizuka and Choji Akimichi please enter the stadium?" Kiba grinned, and just hopped off the edge of the competitor's box, despite the several-story height. He hit the ground lightly, making it clear that his chakra control had improved over the break, and reached up to his HUD, pulling Akamaru out with a grin on his face. Then, he strode to the center of the arena, clearly basking in the approval of the crowd. Choji, on the other hand, walked down the stairs. When Choji was at the bottom with his foe, he walked to the center, clearly nervous, and pulled out a bag of potato chips. Soon enough he was munching furiously, while Kiba stared at him with an incredulous look. Akamaru barked, and Kiba looked at his dog for a moment before looking at Choji, and grinning. Hey, you got a lot stronger over the break. This might actually be a good match. Choji smiled, revealing a mouthful of food, and said, Yeah, I trained pretty hard with my dad. I don't know if I can win, but I know you'll know you've been in a fight. Kiba grinned, and said, Hey, same to you. Let's get this party started. Choji nodded, and settled into his ready stance, Kiba and Akamaru matching him with their own stances. The proctor looked between the two for a moment, and then nodded, as if affirming something to himself. Begin. The whole arena was silent for just a moment, and then Choji shouted, multi-size technique. With this, his whole body seemed to expand, until he appeared to be nothing more than an oversized roly-poly. Once this was done, he shouted, pleasingly plump. Human bullet tank. Suddenly, his head and limbs were sucked into his torso, turning him into nothing more than a ball, which soon started rotating at incredible speeds. When it touched the ground, it bounced once, and then shot towards Kyuubi at high speed. Both Kyuubi and Akamaru easily dodged it, and soon, Kyuubi was shouting his own technique name, facing the back of the still-rolling Choji. Suga. Kyuubi jumped into the air, and turned into a high-speed whirlwind of spinning claws and fangs, as Akamaru ran along the ground behind him. Choji managed to reverse his direction by bouncing off several walls, leaving a number of craters, and was soon heading straight towards the spinning Kyuubi. They collided at high speed, and winds shot out from the force of the impact, earth breaking beneath them. Kyuubi's whirlwind bounced away, while Choji emerged from his bullet tank mode and staggered around for a moment, obviously dizzy. Kyuubi, the momentum of his attack putting him on the opposite side of the arena, couldn't take advantage of Choji's state. Akamaru, on the other hand, did. The little white puppy shot forward and bit down hard on Choji's ankle. Choji shouted and instinctively jumped, but the little dog held on tight, refusing to let go. After a moment of hopping around, Choji raced through some seals and cried out, "Partial multi-size jutsu." With that, his left leg expanded at incredible speed, and so did his right arm. Akamaru was sent flying by the sudden expansion, and Choji moved to strike the dog with his now much larger arm, while it was still in midair and unable to defend itself. Seconds before impact, Kyuubi arrived, moving at incredible speeds for a genin, and caught Akamaru, pulling his dog out of harm's way, and narrowly avoiding the hit meant for Akamaru, getting off with just a graze from the massive limb. When he landed, he immediately dropped Akamaru, and shouted out, "4 legs." Kyuubi's chakra surged, and his whole body started to change. His canines, already sharp and pointed, grew even longer and more ferocious looking. His finger and toenails grew and sharpened, becoming more claw-like, and the pupils of his eyes became nothing more than vertical slits. Soon, looking almost more dog than human, Kyuubi shot towards Choji, moving twice as fast as he had been going mere moments ago, with Akamaru racing right alongside him, still in dog form. The instant they reached Choji, it became clear that they had the advantage. They were moving too fast for him to keep up, and although he was able to maintain a good defense using his multi-size, he just couldn't land a blow, and was being rapidly worn down. Kyuubi and Akamaru were soon circling around Choji at speeds too fast for him to keep up with. The still partially expanded Akamichi was obviously struggling to stay with his opponents, and a long series of narrowly avoided blows, with the margin of error shrinking with each strike, made it clear that he was outmatched. The stadium was already roaring, and when Choji suddenly shrank his oversized limbs back down to size, and re-entered his bullet tank mode, they only got louder. Kyuubi and Akamaru both backed off, easily avoiding the cumbersome bullet tank, and then followed behind the ball of expanded human flesh, waiting for Choji to emerge so they could strike. They were obviously expecting it to happen when he collided with the arena wall, and ran forward in striking position the instant it happened, but instead they were forced to jump back, as Choji just kept on going up the wall, still in ball mode. Soon, Choji had reached the top of the wall, and Kyuubi and Akamaru had both jumped back to the center of the arena, looking nervous. Choji emerged from ball form, and spun in midair, a grin on his face, and went through a few hand seals, before suddenly expanding his left arm to several times the size of his body. Kyuubi and Akamaru immediately separated, avoiding the oversized fist that crashed down where they had been standing moments ago. Choji's body followed his limb, and soon enough, in a familiar pattern, he once more found himself fending off his two foes, who were moving around him at high speeds, looking for an opening. The battle continued, as it was for a few moments, and then, as they passed by each other on one of their circuits of Choji, a small pulse shot from Kyuubi's hand to Akamaru's mouth. On the next rotation, as Choji was starting to wonder why the small white dog was suddenly big and red, they both skidded to a halt, and Akamaru jumped onto Kyuubi's back. Choji swung towards both of them, and his roar of exertion drowned out the sound of their combined arms. The effects, however, were easily visible, as two Kyubis emerged from the dust cloud caused by Choji's fist impacting the ground. His shot gave one of the Kyubis an opportunity, and a quick suga later, Choji was bleeding from multiple wounds across his back, and his arm had shrunk down to normal size once more. Both Kyubis shot forward, now moving even faster than before, but Choji once more raced through hand seals, and a quick shout of human bullet tank brought him up the wall once more to safety, while Kyuubi and Akamaru, indistinguishable from one another, remained behind on the ground. Choji emerged from the top of the wall, just like last time, but this time he simply collapsed to his knees on the horizontal surface, panting heavily, and bleeding from his back. He looked down at his two opponents, and grinned. "Man, you guys are fast. How'd you do that?" One of the Kyubis rose on two legs once more, while the other transformed back into a once more white-furred Akamaru. "It's practically all we've worked on. Our whole team is fast, although you wouldn't know it by looking at Shino. Sensei always said if the opponent can't catch you they can't hurt you, and it made sense to us, so that's kind of been our priority in training." "Oh, that makes sense. And it's kind of true, you guys are way too fast for me. Proctor, I surrender." The proctor nodded by way of acknowledgement and gestured for some medics to look at Choji's back, while Kiba and Akamaru merrily headed up to the competitor's box. The proctor turned to look up towards the competitor's box and called out, "Could Hinata Hyuga and Tamari-san please come down to the floor?" Tamari smirked and let loose a bit of killing intent as she jumped off of the balcony onto her fan, gliding down into the arena with a grace that awed the audience. Then, in a move that awed her friends, Hinata jumped off the balcony just as Kiba had at the start of his match, and walked forward with a confidence that had never before been present. Kiba entered the competitor's box just in time to hear the tail end of his fellow Konoha ninja's surprise muttering at Hinata's sudden about face, and frowned. He still wasn't particularly happy about the methods used, but even he couldn't deny the results. He silently moved forward to stand next to Naruto, hoping, as he did, that Hinata would notice. Down on the field, the once shy Hyuga activated her Byakugan and visibly flinched before turning to look back at the competitor's box for a moment. She turned back to the field after a moment's hesitation and was once more all business. Across from Hinata, Tamari smirked. My, what a surprise. Last time I saw you were all stutters and nerves. What happened? Had a change of heart, little girl. Hinata didn't answer, simply glared at her opponent with her activated Byakugan. Well, no matter, I'll crush you anyway. I'm ready for the proctor. And I am, as well. Alright. Begin. Tamari snapped open her fan, and, as she swung it shouted, "Doesn't matter how fast you are, it won't let you dodge this." A massive gust of wind shot towards Hinata at incredible speed, and Tamari smirked at the moment of panic that flitted across Hinata's face. The smirk disappeared along with Hinata, as all her attack struck was a swirl of leaves. A similar swirl appeared behind Tamari, and a few blows later, the blonde from the Sand Village was on the ground unconscious, a victorious Hinata looking down on her. Winner, Hinata Hyuga. The crowd went wild once more, and Hinata glanced up at the stands for a moment before smiling, and turning to walk up the stairs. At the stands, Hiashi Hyuga frowned, unknowingly matching the look on his nephew's face. When did Hinata get so strong? How had he missed this? Next to her father, Hanabi Hyuga just smiled, pleased to see her sister finally coming into her own, and just as pleased to see the shock on their father's face. In another part of the stadium, Kurenai simply smiled in response to the questioning gazes of her fellow sensei, pride etched on her face. Both of her students had made it past the first round, and both of them had looked damn good doing it. For just a moment in time, all was well once more. Then, her features hardened, and she resumed her vigilance. It never hurts to be too careful. Could Naruto Uzumaki and Rock Lee please come down? Naruto and Lee looked at each other, and the crowd fell silent. Simultaneously, they both grinned and held out their hands. But luckily, may our flames of youth shine brighter than any before us. Their words echoed throughout the strangely quiet stadium. Lee, of course, didn't notice the absolute lack of cheers, nor the glares that were being thrown the way of his future opponent, as they both jumped down into the stadium, but other people were significantly less oblivious. Hey, yeah, Sakura, why are they glaring at Naruto? I don't know. He didn't pull some big prank we didn't hear about over the break, did he? Gaara turned his head to view the crowd, and felt his hatred growing. They were looking at him again, those eyes, those same eyes. They always did this, wherever he went, it wasn't right. The pain surged through him, and Gaara almost reacted in his usual bloody fashion, but then he hesitated. The blonde boy jumped down into the arena, the annoyingly green one following him, and the glares went with them. There was another. Shikamaru shifted his nervous glance away from Gaara, and towards Naruto, who was calmly walking towards the center, ignoring the looks he was getting. His eyes narrowed, and he sighed under his breath. Then, Naruto did something even more confusing. Now at the center of the arena, facing Lee down in the noonday sun, he reached up and pulled off his customary orange jumper, throwing it to the side. The crowd's reaction was instantaneous. A chorus of boos, hisses, and jeers rained down on an apparently uncaring Naruto, along with the occasional piece of trash. A moment later, the boss and hisses seemed to redouble, only this time their target appeared to be the crazy proctor from the Forest of Death, who Shikamaru had noticed giving Naruto the evil eye after the preliminaries. Shikamaru turned his head once more to Naruto. He now appeared to be casually talking to Lee, and frowned. Nothing stood out, beyond an odd lack of scars, and what appeared to be a strange tattoo on his shoulder. Nothing that should have brought on this sort of reaction, at least. Shikamaru silently slipped out of the competitor's box where he had been waiting. At this point, whatever happened in the coming fight wasn't important. Answers were. The proctor raised his hand, and started to bring it down. The audience took in a breath, all at once. Several civilians rose to their feet, and rushed towards Anko. Lee and Naruto tensed their muscles. Then, suddenly, a swirl of leaves appeared in the middle of the arena, a swirl which quickly faded away to present Kakashi and Sasuke, standing back to back. Sasuke was smirking, while Kakashi was reading his book. The silver-haired Jonin lifted his head to look at the proctor, noting out of the corner of his eye Anko quickly and efficiently avoiding the civilians that had rushed her, before she disappeared in her own swirl of leaves, even as the chorus of jeers died down. Are we late? The proctor frowned, and lowered his hand without saying the word begin at all. Yes, but it doesn't matter. The Hokage made an exception, so you weren't disqualified. Sasuke's smirk widened, and he looked at Lee, saying, I'm looking forward to fighting you later on. Lee frowned, and didn't respond. Kakashi noticed some orange out of the corner of his eye, and turned to look at the source. What he saw, shirtless and pissed off Naruto, was not what he had been expecting. Hey, Naruto. What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be up in the stands? Naruto blinked. No. Why? Kakashi frowned beneath his mask. Well, Neji beat you right. Naruto's look of confusion abruptly turned to shock, and then anger. You didn't even bother to find out what happened in my match. Kakashi jerked back, as if stung. You won. Naruto snorted, and jerked his head. Get off the field, sensei. My match is about to begin. The proctor, who had been eyeing Kakashi with a mixture of disbelief and shame, turned to look at Naruto. I'm afraid not. His match was supposed to be first, and since yours technically hasn't started, he's actually the one that's going at this point. You're going to have to wait your turn. Naruto shrugged, and said, whatever, I can wait. Sasuke smirked. Still want me to verify your existence? Gaara looked up for a moment, and then frowned. Yes, but a question first. Sasuke was clearly surprised. Gaara just didn't seem like the inquisitive type. Okay. Go ahead. You're teammates with the boy in orange. Naruto Uzumaki. Yeah, why? They look at him with the same eyes. Why? What do you mean? They hate him, they fear him, they revile him. Tell me why. They don't hate him. I mean, they hate him. I saw, they looked at him with those same eyes. Is he a monster like me? Does he seek to verify his existence? No way. Naruto may be a little weird, but he's not nuts like you are. Very well. You shall both verify my existence. I am ready. Sasuke noticed for the first time the restless state of the crowd, and Naruto's shirt discarded on the floor. Yeah, I'm ready to begin. As Sasuke raced forward, displaying incredible speed for a genin, Naruto found himself in the middle of an old-fashioned stare-down, with none other than Shikamaru on the opposite end. Naruto. Shika. What's up? You're so freaking troublesome, Naruto. Would you take off your shirt? A frown flitted across Naruto's face. I just found out my sensei assumed that I would lose, and end up in the hospital after the preliminaries, to the point that he didn't even bother checking afterwards. I'm not in the mood for 20 questions. I don't care. Naruto, weird stuff seems to always happen around you, and I can't figure it out. First one thing seems like the only answer, and then something new comes up that makes that one thing impossible. I thought I had you figured out, but you taking off your stupid shirt just proved me wrong. Why did you do it? I don't know what you mean. Alright, fine. Until a few minutes ago, I thought you were the container of the Kyuubi. Was I wrong? Naruto subtly stiffened, but not subtle enough. No, guess not. Alright, so that brings us back to the same old question. Why did you take off your shirt? If they hate you because you're a container, how is that connected to Anko Mitarashi, the crazy proctor? Naruto remained silent. I've never seen that mark on your shoulder before either. Look, what are you accusing me of? Nothing, I'm not accusing. I don't care that you're a container, you're still Naruto, but I hate mysteries, and I've given up on trying to be subtle about figuring you out. For once, it's actually easier to just freaking ask, so that's what I'm doing. Fine. You know Orochimaru. Yeah. In the Forest of Death, he marked me with a curse seal. Kyuubi beat it off, but the symbol stayed. Because my shirt was so tattered after I blew myself up against Neji, the whole village saw it, and suddenly they had 2 reasons to hate me twice as much. Now I'm further away from being Hokage than ever. I just found out my sensei has absolutely no faith in me, and I'm pretty sure I just heard a crazy-ass fellow container mark me, and my teammate for death. To top it all off, now I'm standing in a dark hall alone with a kid I haven't talked to since the academy who seems determined to preach, and every secret that I've got out of my cold dead hands. Plus, I'm pretty sure a month ago, a pedophile bit me in the neck. Crappy month. God yes. Well, you can still count Choji, and me, as your friends. Thanks, Shikamaru. A small explosion, and a surge of cheering caught their attention, and Naruto sighed. Ready to go watch the fight? Sure. They walked off up their stairs together, as another explosion, and a surge of cheering rattled the arena. The end. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.